Final rendezvous, I think, is what they called it. So, but we were able to bring him and his wife Sylvia down here and his son Chris with them to come back and see the wreckage. And there's a lot of things that went right that day, and he'll tell us about it. But if he hadn't survived, he wouldn't exist today. So there's a PR, there's an media.
Well, at first, you know, do a lot of, you know, that kind of thing, community outreach and stuff, and so it's fairly routine at times. But this one took on kind of a unique flavor to it when we got Mr. Jones down here, Ensign Jones, and we were taking him around the flight line and got to introduce him to some of the Marines. And we took him through the flight equipment, the para-riggers at VMF AT 101. And we introduced him to a young Navy petty officer who was a para-rigger. And he had never had anybody survive an ejection on his watch. He's a young petty officer. And so we introduced him to Bob, and Bob got to tell him his story about ejecting from an airplane in 1957. And that young man was profoundly changed getting to meet someone that's actually ejected from a fighter jet, and you know, a young Navy para-rigger saved his life. Yeah, a lot of the young aviators that we're training today are flying equipment that's so advanced that they don't fail very often. It's very, very rare to have a motor, a jet engine fail these days. There's a whole generation of aviators, Navy and Marine pilots, that have never had to shut down an engine because it's failed on them. It just never happens. So it's good to give perspective on where we're at now, and you know, some of the early work that some of these really brave men and women did back in the 50s, and you know, get to show some perspective on how lucky kind of we have it now, vice, you know, some of the things the experiences they had early on. So that's really kind of what I hope to get out of this engagement, and I think it's been pretty successful.
Without further ado, Bob, the floor is yours.
As you probably know, VFA 146 started as VA 146 in 1956, and it's been a continuous operation since that time. And the jets were so new that, in talking to ATC, when you crashed and were in a fire, it melted into your skin. So that the early G suits didn't last very long. One day we got more than others, and the next morning everybody had a headache. That thing just really slammed it. It gives you a holds you up right now. And the debrief, I said, well, sir, what did you think of those thunderstorms? He said, well, I've seen worse. I mentioned those simulators, and most of the squadrons were led by guys. So I think that's what you're doing.
That sounds fun.
Mary and Carl, I read in an interview one time, they were interviewing him, and of course